A very good morning, one and all, and my name is Srinath, and I will be the presenter for today's masterclass about Service Catalog feature, which is available in ServiceDesk Plus on-demand application. And this is the very first masterclass that we conduct this session, and we have a list of other masterclass scheduled from starting today till October 3rd and to cover up all the modules which are available in ServiceDesk Plus on demand. So you can also go to our registration page where you can book your seats to get more details about all the features that we have in the on-demand application. So today, as I said, we are going to have a quick look at a service catalog feature which is available. So what's going to be our agenda for today's masterclass will be like, we are going to see, what's the need of the service catalog and how we can build a service catalog and how we can define a workflow within it, and apart from which, how the service request will be handled. And further, we can move on to the discussion. Probably like if you have any questions to ask regarding this feature, you can go ahead and ask, and I will be happy to answer that as well. So then now I'm just going to give you some details about what is the need of this particular service catalog. So like we have, when you have an on-demand application, you have incident request and service request. So when incident request is something that you can send out as an email and you can raise the request and the technicians can work on it. Whereas the service catalog is something that end user has to log into the portal and raise requests. This is not something they can send out as an email and they can raise it. So the main thing here is we are going to make the end users to log into the portal and choose their own templates for which they would like to raise the request. And then we are going to gather a lot of details. So for example, if it is going to be an email, there will be a subject and description where we can gather. It's not like when they log into the portal. So when they choose a template, we can ask a lot of questions to them, and we can make them to choose or fill the mandatory fields that we have in the template. So we can get all the details inaccurate, so we can make things forward. So like when they raise a particular request, instead going with a lot of conversation, in the very first step itself, in the templates itself, we can ask few questions which will help us to take this particular request further. And apart from which, you can define an automated workflow, and which is nothing but you can configure the approvals, and you can configure tasks, and you can configure service level agreements. So these are the things like, you can automate it, unlike incident request. So where you can make the approval to be triggered automatically whenever a particular request is being raised. So in this way, we can reduce the cost required to deliver the service of this particular service catalog feature. So what we are going to do here is in next half an hour of time, so we are going to quickly see how we can build a service catalog. And I'm going to show you a demo. So for providing this demo, I have taken an example. Let's take HR new hire form, where our HR representative, as a requester, they can log in and raise a request, a new hire request, so that before a new hire comes into the organization, we can get ready with their Active Directory account, and we can get their email account ready. And we can also provide, we can also get approval for their laptops, and we can provide it to them. So in order for this to happen, so we are going to configure the template. So within the template, we're going to have the task, so which is nothing but to get this done. For example, I'm going to create 3 different tasks. So each task will be assigned to a owner. For example, if it's going to be a network team or Active Directory team who is going to take care of creation of Active Directory, I will create a task for Active Directory creation, Active Directory account creation, and then email account creation. And then third thing is going to be providing a laptop to the end user. I mean, making ready for their laptop so that end user will get it once they come into the organization. So we are going to completely configure the template, workflows, and everything right now. So I'm just going to switch over my screen to the demo session right now. So where you can, I'm just going to log in as a technician right now so that I can show you how we can define the workflows and configure the approvals right now. And one other main important things for making an end user to log into the portal and raise requests is nothing but, when they log in, they will be able to find the announcements which we have published in the portal, and also they can search for the solutions that we have published, so which is nothing but knowledge base to the end users, where they will be able to find some resolutions by themselves, which will be helping them to fix the issue for which they are trying to log a request. So not only for service requests, there are other features which will be used when they log in as well. So apart from it, I will show this particular requester portal later. I'm just going to log in as a technician right now. I'm just logged in as a technician over here. So we have the service catalog feature, which is nothing but service request feature over here under templates and forms service category. So when coming to the service category, here the templates are grouped, which is nothing but, let's take, you have 4 or 5 templates, which is basically, these templates will be taken care by a set of user groups. So which is nothing but, let's take, you have a 5 or 10 HR requesters who will log in and raise the request. So you can have the templates, which is nothing but, you can have the category as HR templates. So when they log in, they will be able to, we can make sure that they will be able to see only these kinds of templates apart from any other templates which you're going to generate. So you can also, when you create a service category, you can name it. And once you name it, you can create the templates under each categories. So you can also feed in the image, which is nothing but logo for this particular category, and you can also select the icon as well. So I'm just created a particular category called HR template over here. So under HR templates, I have an option to create multiple templates over here. So what's gonna, as I mentioned you, we are going to test a new hire form, which is nothing but, I'm just going to create a new template called new hire form, and we're going to show the other features as well. So give me a minute. So here we are. So in this particular template, apart from which you have an option to add all the fields over here. So you can add all the additional fields as well. I will tell you about the additional field later. So also, for example, whatever fields that you have in the template, you can also have an option to make it as a mandatory field, or maybe if you would like to, for example, for this particular request, you wanted to have the priority as high. So I can predefine it over here, and I can also make sure that the requester is not going to set this. They are going to just view this. And so I'm just going to uncheck this option, and probably I can also make this as a mandatory field, but still anyhow we have the value. Maybe if you have impact details or maybe levels which needs to be chosen by the requester, and if that's going to be a very mandatory for them, then you can make this particular field as a mandatory over here. So likewise, you can have all the fields required, and you can add it over here. And apart from which, so we provide a default fields. For example, we have a lot of defaults field which we have in the application. Since it's been a new hire form, when a requester going to raise this particular request with help of this template, we would need to get the employee ID and the new employee email address that needs to be created in the Active Directory. So what we can do for this is going to be, I'm just going to take you to the setup portion, which is nothing but setup and customization and additional fields. Over here, you will be able to add additional fields, and this can be configured in the templates. And for example, here I already have a field called email ID, and I'm going to add one other field, which is nothing but let's take employee ID. And I'm going to just make this particular field available right now. So what would be the minimum and maximum characters required? You can feed it over here. If you need to have a description over here, so new employees new employee ID. I can have it over here. I'm just going to save it. Now, once you save this, you're going to have an option where this newly added field now can be configured in the templates over there. So I can, you got a small pop-up at the top. It's a green icon where you can click on it and it will take you to the templates, or you can click on setup and you can come over to the service catalog feature. And so here, under HR templates, I'm just going to create a new hire form, and so it's going to be new hire form, and I'm going to add. So where you can see both the additional fields that we have configured is available here, and I will be putting it to the empty space over there. Give me a minute. So I'm just going to push this and put it over here. And I will also make both the fields as some mandatory fields so that requester has to fill in when they log in. So I'm just going to make this field as well, mandatory field as well. So both are configured as a mandatory. Since new hire form is specifically configured only for the HR, where they can log in and raise requests, I don't want this template to be visible for all the other users in the organization. So this template has to be only visible for HR alone. So what we can do, how we can do this? So here we have, so this templates can be associated to a particular user groups. So what's user group? So user group is nothing but, I'm just going to save this right now and take you to the user group section in order for you to show that. So I'm going to set up, and under users and permission, you have user group. So user groups is something to group a set of users. So we can have some criterias over here and we can add it. Either let's take, if this user group is known as HR, and I can group a set of department HR users. For example, department is HR. So I don't have this as of now. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to create a department, let's say HR, and associate this department to one of the requesters, so that this particular requester will be associated to HR department, and I'm going to group them under the HR user group. So I have a requester section, set up users and permission, requester. So under this requester, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to associate this particular requester to a department and called HR. So before I do that, I have to come over to the ServiceDesk Plus configuration section, and under departments, I have to create a new department. Let's take HR department, and who will be the head. If you want to make a particular department head, you can also make it. And I'm just going to save this over here. So now if I go back to the users and permission users section, I will be able to associate this particular user to the group department called HR, and I will be able to save it. Now this particular requester belongs to HR department. Let's take this as HR as well. So I'm going to create a group for them. So likewise, I can create multiple requesters who are the HRs in your organization, and I can associate them to the department. Let's take HR. So, and if you want, in order to group them, I'm going to create a user group, HR department. And so here, if I'm going to mark it as department is HR, and I can just save it. So if I edit this on the preview section, you have this particular user lister who belongs to HR department. If you have any other requester who belongs to HR department, will be listed over here. So now we have grouped all the HR requesters over here. So what's the next step will be? I'm just going to save this so I can populate the new user group which I have created. So I'm just going to go back and come to the HR template section. Okay. And here, I'm going to find the new groups which I have created over here. So for example, I'm just going to save this. So once I associate this particular template to the HR user group alone, now only they will be able to view this particular templates, and I can also show this particular option, for example, show to requesters. Now I'm going to associate this to the user group HR department, and I'm going to save it. So now this template is going to be visible only for HR requesters, and I'm going to configure other things right now. So what is the next thing is going to be within the templates? So what we have defined over here is a template view for the technicians, which are the field that needs to be available. And if you wanted to change the alignment and place of this particular, status and the other feature, you can move it over here. And apart from which, I have the requester section where I can define for probably I can align these fields in the requester section. So when they log in, these are the fields that they will be able to see it. We have already made the email ID and employee ID as a mandatory, as we've seen before. And the next thing is going to be resource information section. Probably let's take, this is the main section that you have within a service request compared to the incident request. So here we can add questions, multiple questions, and we can get an answer from the end users. So when they, for example, you have additional fields for this, but additional fields are to get some values like employee IDs and other stuff. What if we wanted to ask some questions? So when they are going to join within a week, or probably we can have a pick list, let's say 1 week or 2 weeks of time, and which department they are going to belong to. So these are the questions which can be added over here. So I'm just going to add you a few questions. So in order to, so which department the new user will be associated to. So I can make this as a new questions. It's just going to be a text box because they need to fill in their details. So I'm just going to be probably you have like the additional fields, you have make it as a yes or no questions, or you can mark it as select box, or you can have it as check box or text box as well. So for example, which department the new user will be associated, and I can click on OK, and I'm just going to add this particular field over here. So when the requester logs in, they will be able to fill in the answer for this particular question. And the next thing is going to be what laptop needs to be provided to the new user. So I'm just going to put a question mark over here, and I'm going to create this as a new question then. And this is going to be a kind of a select box, for example, if you would like to a Windows mission. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to add Mac. Okay. So these are the questions. Now it will be available. So it's going to be a Windows or Mac mission. So wherein requester will be able to choose this. So likewise, you can have multiple questions, and this will help you to gather the details from your requesters, rather than having a lot of conversation between the technicians and requester. You can minimize that and gather all the details over here. And the next pretty important thing is going to be approvals, where you can automate it. Since it's been a HR form, maybe once they raise a particular request, I want the HR manager to approve this particular request. So I can add the manager over here. So manager could be anyone. So today it will be a particular person. Tomorrow that might vary. So here I can define an org role, and I can add. So for example, I would show this right away. So if I go to setup section, and under ServiceDesk plus configurations, you have organization roles. You can define multiple roles over here. For example, these roles can be added as an approver. Whoever configured to this particular role, or whoever associated to this particular role, will get the approval email automatically. Since it's going to be a new one, I'm just going to create a new role called HR manager. and HR manager, and I'm going to associate a particular user, which is nothing but a technician or a user who is going to be a manager for this. And I've just added this over here. So here we have a new role called HR manager. Now, within this particular template section under approvals, I will be able to add a new approver, which is nothing but is going to be a HR manager. So simple like that. So you have it here. So when a request is raised, automatically approval email will be sent to the HR manager. So under HR manager, how we can define this approval? Either let's take, if you have 3 or 4 managers having added over as a HR manager, how we can, do you want to wait for all the managers approval or let any one of the approver approves it? So this is what we can do it as a, do it under one-time configuration. And here, so apart from, I have just added the stage 1, I can add multiples of stage over here. And I can define and multiple roles. Probably I can choose the roles, or I can choose just the technicians alone. So here I have added it as a HR manager as a one-time configuration. You can send approval notification automatically. For example, if you want this no approval to be triggered automatically, I can just enable this, and all configured approver has to approve the service request. If you have 2 or 3 approvers, if you want all the approver to approve it, or like any one of them to approve it. So let's put it as all the configured approver to approve it. And if you have defined a technician, for example, this new hire form has to be taken care by one set of technician or one particular technician, and you can define them under the templates itself. I will just show you that right away. And if you want that technician to be assigned when you raise the request or once upon this particular request is approved, this is what, that's something that you have to enable it over here. Do you want to show this approval to the requester? Yes. And I'm just going to save it. Okay, so I just have some empty stages. I'm just going to remove that. So I'm just going to save it. And as I said, since it's been, you can go and assign a technician to this particular request. I'm just going to assign this particular request to a technician called Srinath, and he is going to be the technician who will be assigned once this particular request gets approved. And here, so we have configured resource information, approvals, and we are moving into the service level agreements right now. So service level agreements is nothing but, you know, if you want it to be this fixed within 1 or 2 days of time. For example, as a requester, you have ordered them to raise a request before the user joins, 2 days before the user joins the organization. And this needs to be, for example, if I raise this particular request on Thursday, and you need to be completing this particular request within 2 days of time, this is what you have the service level agreements you have. So you can create a service level agreement. Maybe probably you have a service level agreement section under setup, and you can go to automation and service level agreements. You can define multiple different service level agreements over here, and whatever that you define it, it can be associated to the template, or from here you can associate it directly. You can do it in either ways. So here I can quickly going to create a HR SLA. So it's going to be the technician who has to fix this particular issue. So it has to be irrespective of operational hours, or it has to be so these are the options that you can choose it. Either this request has to be, should be resolved irrespective of holidays or irrespective of weekends. These are the 3 options that you can choose it. And I'm just going to put it as a 2 days. This request needs to be fulfilled within 2 days of time. Maybe if it has not been fixed, I can escalate this particular request to the HR manager, so he can take further actions. So I'm just going to assign it, save it. And now from here, I can associate the newly created SLA to this particular template. Okay, so here I have it. And I have already defined the HR SLA, and everything is over here. Associate SLA to this service. So when the service gets raised, it has to be resolved within 2 days of time. So that's what we have this service SLA for. So the next thing is going to be task. So, okay, the main thing that we have to work on it when you're coming into the service catalog feature. So nothing but, so this service, when you raise a particular service request, there will be a lot of tasks which needs to be completed behind this. For when coming to this particular request, HR new hire form, so there are three different tasks. Before an user joins to the organization, I should define three different tasks. One is to create an AD account, and the other one is to create an email account, and other one is going to be providing a laptop, which the admin has to take care of it. Now I'm going to create three different tasks, and for the two tasks will be associated to Active Directory department, and the one other task will be associated to the sysadmin department. Now I can add task over here, and the title will be new account in AD. And I can put in the network groups. So groups are nothing but a group of technicians who will be working on this. So being an Active Directory group here, I can go ahead and create a technician groups. So under users and permissions, I can go ahead and create a technician groups, which is nothing but AD, Active Directory, and who are the technicians will be responsible for this. Let's take this particular technician will be responsible, and I'm just going to save it. So when I go over here to the template, I will be able to choose this particular newly added template. So it's going to be new account creation in AD. And you can put it as, please find the employee ID and email address under the request details section. So this will be filled by the HR manager when they raise it. So I'm just going to make it as Active Directory, and the approved tech will be this guy. So I'm just going to save it. Likewise, I can create three different tasks. So the other one is going to be a new account in Office 365. So it's going to be a new email account, by the way. So it's going to be new email account in Office 365. I can just put it as AD, and I'm just going to save it. So likewise, and I'm going to add one other task. So I can define multiple tasks over here. So these are the tasks which needs the technician has to work on it before the approval or after the approval of the request is something that you can define it over here. So for example, if you wanted this task to be triggered to the responsible owner, then you can make it happen on the creation or on the approval of service request or manually, which is manually is nothing but the technician has to himself go ahead and assign it. So we are going to put it as on the approval of service request. You want this both the tasks to be triggered. And one other thing is going to be requester permission. So for example, let's take you have a new employee hire form, which will be chosen by the HR, but old user is again joining an organization. Let's take, if that user already have an account in Active Directory, it is not required for the requester to raise a request for this particular task. So if you want to allow the requester to select the task while creating this template, or allow the requesters to view this task during the creation. So I can check both of this. So if needed, I will select only one task during the creation, or the requester will choose both the tasks during the creation. So this is what, and I'm going to add one other, a task over here. So here we have it for new account creation, new email account. The third thing that we're going to provide is going to be providing the laptop, new laptop for the new user. So this will be taken care by sysadmin department. So I'm going to create a new technician group, which is under user and permission, sysadmin, and this will be taken care by this particular user, and I'm just going to save it. So once it has been saved, I will be able to view this new technician groups when I go and create the task over here. And I'm going to choose it as sysadmin. Let the owner be the one who is responsible for this particular group. So I'm just going to save it. So we have 3 tasks defined. These all the tasks will be assigned to this particular owner once upon the approval of this service request. So here the approval will be, which is nothing but the HR manager, and apart from which we have also defined the resource information section where the end users can fill it. And here, the last thing that we're going to see is going to be within the template section. We're going to see is form rules. So what is the importance of this particular form rule? Is nothing but, let's take it being a new hire form. It's very mandatory for the requesters to choose or mandate the resource information section. So you have to mandate the field called the resource information section. So we have 2 things, right? So we have defined it over here. So unlike templates, for example, under technicians, you have added a lot of fields and you have made this field as a mandatory by clicking on this particular option. Whereas under resource information section, we don't have this particular option to make this as a mandatory. So using the form rule, I can mandate this resource information. So I'm just going to make it as a mandate resource questions. So this is going to be applied for only this particular template. So we have chosen it as new hire form, and it's going to be on form load, definitely. So we have 3 options when this form rule needs to be executed, either on form load or field change or form submit. So now I have chosen it as form load, which is nothing but during the creation itself. So I have chosen it as on form load, and the condition is nothing. So we don't want to choose any condition to raise it. Let's make this particular field as a mandatory. So I'm going to choose it as a mandatory field, and I'm going to make these 2 questions, the resource information questions, as a mandatory. And I'm going to save this right now. So I have not chosen any criteria. So if there is no criteria chosen, this rule will be executed at any point of time for this particular template. So here I have defined, so technicians. So let's quickly recap on the configuration which we have done in the template section. So we have created new additional fields. We have created the report resource information section, and we have approvals configured, and we have SLAs, service level agreements, and task and form rules. So this form rule, which I have defined it over here, is specific for this particular template alone. And maybe let's take this form rule as something, pretty common for all the other templates as well. So what we need to do here is you can go to setup, and you can go to the customization part. I'm sorry about that. Templates and form section part, you have the form rules. So here you can define a number of form rules. So since we have created on the service level service request, it will be under service form rule. So here I can edit it, and when this rule needs to be executed on this particular template, if I have defined all of the templates will be available, and I can go ahead and choose it. So this is part which we're going to do it over with help of the form rule. Now, so what I'm going to show you here is we have defined a template right now. I'm just going to log in as a requester over here, which is nothing but the HR user, and I'm going to create a new request and show you how this is going to work. So let's quickly move back to a different screen again, so I can show you how this is going to work. So one quick minute. So I'm just going to log in as a requester over here. So the requester come to the login page, and they can go ahead and put in their credentials to log in. So this is the first time, so it's going to be just a grant access page. Give me a minute. So once they log into this particular page, so they will be able to view the portal which you have created, so which is nothing but ESM portal. And I'm just going to click on the portal that we have, Masterclass account. So once I go into the request section, and I can find, so these, once you log into this, these are the option as a requester, you will be able to see it. For example, you can find the dashboard. I can click on the new summary option to view the newly added request or the request that you have created in the past. And if there is any kind of announcement which is available, the announcement will be available under the announcement section. And under request, you will be able to find the request which you have. And my details is nothing but the details that you have of this particular requester. If you would like to change it, you can add your phone numbers and you can update it over here as well. So likewise, you can do this and update the details. So the next thing is going to be solutions, which is nothing but I haven't configured any solutions yet. Probably you can have a lot of knowledge base added over here, and so that end user will be able to go through the solution and will be able to find the resolution for the issue which they are facing. If they have any kind of minor issues within their laptops or printers or something like that, you can add some common solutions over there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the Home tab option again, and I'm just going to create a new service request as a HR, which will be under HR templates. So it's going to be a new hire form. So I'm going to fill in all the fields available. So which is going to be high priority, and it's going to be our desktop, and I haven't defined it, so it's going to be a new hire creation. So I've just done this. The new employee will join on August 3rd. Let's put it in this way, and I can fill in what's going to be the employee ID. So for the new user, let's mark it as 355, and what's going to be their employee ID, which is nothing but Rinat at Zohar.com. So as I told you, since it's going to be a new user as a HR, I can choose all these three email. Let's take, if this is going to be a rejoining employee, if already have an account in Active Directory, it is not required to create an account in AD. So I will be able to uncheck this. So this task will not be created and it will not be associated. But since it's being a new user, I'm just going to create it. Which department will this be user be associated to? This user will be associated to admin. And what laptop it's going to be required is nothing but I'm going to choose it, and Windows machine. As we have defined this fields as a mandatory fields using the form rule, it is being configured as a mandatory. You can see it over here, and I'm just going to add this particular task over here. So the request has been added right now. So once it's been added, and you can see this request has been sent to the HR manager as an approver. So what I can do here is I'm just going to log in as a approver and just going to approve this request, or else I can log into my email account, and I might have received a notification email for the approvals as well, and I can approve it via email as well. But still, once you click on the approval, you have to log in. So I'm just going to close this particular request account, and I'm just going to log it as a technician back in order to approve it, which is nothing but HR manager 3907. So I'm just going to put this password and just log in. And once I log in, I will be able to find the approval emails over here. So once I click on it, so that you have the pending approval section. So I'm just going to approve it and approved. So once I approve it, this is automatically going to assign all the tasks to the respective technicians, so that they can work on it. So here you can see the approval status has been changed to approved, and you have all the tasks over here, and all the tasks will be associated to the owners right now, so they can work on it. You can click on this task, and you can see the details. The owner has been automatically assigned to approver, which is nothing but upon the approver action, all the three tasks will be created. So I can work on this task, and I can choose all of this, and I can close it maybe once upon all it. And also you have an option to define the dependency. you can define, for example, before creation of AD, you will not be able to create an Office 365 account. So in such case, you can make the dependency. So you can define the dependencies over here. So which is going to be dependent on which task. So this is what I can go ahead and configure it. So if it is going to be dependent on this one, and I can put it over here, and I can make this as a dependency view. So unless and until before completing this particular task, I will not be able to work on this task. So now once we have completed all this tasks, so they can go ahead and close this. And Alicia wanted to close the selected task. Yes. So I have defined all the things. The task has been worked on it. So the new account has been created for users in Active Directory and everything as a technician. So so we have defined the technician. So in the template, we have Srinath as a technician. And upon approval, you want it to be assigned to this particular technician. It got added automatically over here. And I can put some resolutions over here. So all the tasks has been completed. And maybe what are the resolution that you have provided? Let's take if you have configured the task, and if you have configured the new AD, and what's the name of the new Active Directory user, and what's the email address given, and if you would like to have some resolution, you can do it. Or since it's going to be a common resolution that you will be provided, like all the task has been completed, you can search for the resolution. If you have configured the solutions over there, and you will get all the solution, and you can choose it and you can define it. So here you will be able to find the details of it. So here we have defined two additional fields: employee ID 3555, and the email employee ID is going to be. So we can define it in the resolution. I'm just going to put it like new account created for the user, for the new user, new employee 3555. So I'm just going to save it. So let this be a resolution for this. So I'm just going to close this particular status. So before you close this, probably you can get in touch with your requester to make sure that all the things has been properly done. So if they acknowledged it, you can mark it as yes, they have acknowledged it, and you can close this as well. So now this request has been closed. So this will be visible for the end users as well. So this is for exactly how the service catalog feature works. And so probably we have just gone through all the things which is available on this particular feature. And we have also, on the presentation that we have over here, so we have also provided some kind of 6 simple steps for building an effective service catalogs, which is available in the presentation under the download section. So you can go to the download section, and you will be able to download the presentation, where you can find the simple things like how we can configure the service catalog feature in the 6 steps. You have the service category, you can define it, and the next thing is going to be the template, which you can configure it, and the third thing is going to be resource information section, and you can configure the organization roles and make them as an approver in the next step. And the last thing is going to be service level agreements. If you need any other queries, or if you need any other assistance with this particular feature, and we are happy to assist you, you can send out an email to us to our support email address, which is nothing but ServiceDesk Plus, which in short SDP -on-demand-support at ManageEngine.com. Also, you can log into our on-demand application, and at the right top corner, you will be finding an option a feedback or support. At the right top corner, you will be finding a question mark. You can click on that, and you will be able to put in your feedback or queries, which needs to be answered within your product queries. We will be happy to answer that as well. And thank you. Thanks for all the time, and hope the session was helpful. We'll meet you on the next session. Have a good day. Bye now.